So welcome back to the channel, guys. I hope you are all doing absolutely fine. So guys, today in this video I am going to show you my game in which my opponent just trapped my knight, and I will show you how I untrapped my knight. So this is a game which I played just yesterday. In this game I was playing with the white pieces. I started off with e4, e5, knight to f3, knight to c6, bishop to c4, at 6, preventing any kind of knight to g5 ideas. I just castled king side. He plays knight to f6. I played knight to c3. Now bishop to b4. Now I played pawn to d3. He took my knight by playing bishop takes on c3. I took his bishop back by playing b takes on c3. He just castles king side. I pushed my pawn to a3. He attacked my bishop by playing knight to f5. Because I pushed pawn to a3, because I already anticipated knight to a5, and had I not played pawn to a3 in this position, I would have been forced to trade my bishop for a knight, which is generally not recommended. So I just played pawn to a3. He attacked my bishop by playing knight to a5. I retreated my bishop to a2. Now he played d6, supporting his center. I played bishop to d2. He plays bishop to g4. I played c4, launching a discovered attack on his knight. He retreats his knight to c6. Now c3 is on the board. Now he plays a6. Now I played h3, kicking away the bishop. The bishop moves back to h5, maintaining pressure on my knight. I played queen to e2. He plays b5. I played queen to e3, and now my knight is free of pen. He took my pawn by playing b takes on c4. I took his pawn by playing bishop takes on c4. He again attacked my bishop in the same old fashion by playing knight to a5. I again retreated my bishop to a2. Now he pushed d5. I pushed c4, and now I think I made a mistake here. I don't know, because I am calling it a mistake because now black can just push pawn to d4. My queen will be attacked, and if I move my queen to e2, and then my knight will again be pinned. If I move my queen to e1, then he will simply capture my knight, which is with his bishop, and if I recapture, and then I will compromise on my king's safety. Now he plays c6. I took his knight by playing bishop takes a5. He took my bishop back by playing queen takes a5. Now I took his pawn by playing c takes d5. He played c takes d5. I took his pawn with the bishop takes d5, attacking his rook. He plays knight takes on d5. I plays e takes on d5. I played e takes on d5. He grabbed my pawn by playing queen takes on d5. I played queen takes on e5 now. He plays queen takes on e5, and I played knight takes on e5. Now he played rook f to d8. Now I played g4, kicking away the bishop. He plays bishop to g6. Now I took his bishop by playing knight takes on g6. Now he pushed f6. What is this? I think due to some misclick he wasn't able to recapture. So that in that way I think that's the reason why he pushed f6. Because after knight takes g6, I think the best move was to capture this knight immediately, but he just pushed pawn to f6. Now I gave him a check, knight to e7 check. He plays king to f7. I played knight to f5. He plays rook takes on d3. I played king to h2. Now he played g6. Now I played knight takes on h6 check. I took the poisoned pawn on h6. Now my knight is trapped. But even though the knight cannot move, it can be protected. I did just the same thing. I played g5. He plays f takes on g5, and now I protected my knight. I moved my knight out of danger by playing knight to g4. Rook to e8. Now a4. Rook to d2. Rook a to e1. Rook exchanges declined. Rook e to d8. Knight to e3. Rook to a2. Rook to a1. Rook to e2 again. Now rook a to d1. Again rook exchanges declined. Rook to e8. I played rook to d6, going after the a6 pawn. And in this position I completely forgot that my knight is undefended, because the f2 pawn is pinned to the king, so he took my knight for free. I took his pawn for free. Now rook to a3 is on the board. I gave him a check by playing rook to a7 check. King to h6 was the move that he played. Now I pushed a5. He doubled the rooks on the a file by playing rook e to a2. Now I pushed a6. He plays rook takes on a6. I played rook takes on a6. Now he took my rook back, and now we both exchanged rooks. And now, if you see here, it is an equal game. I pushed pawn to f3. He gave him a check by playing rook to a2 check. I played king to g3. He played king to h5. I played rook to f2, again asking for a rook trade. He declines the trade by playing rook to a3. Now in this position I was aware of the pin. I was already anticipating g4, so I quietly moved my king to g2. He plays g4. I took it with the h pawn. H takes on g4 check. He played king to h4. I played rook to f1. He made a really big blunder here. He played pawn to g5. Now it's a mate in one, and I saw that I just played rook to h1 hash, which is a check and mate. As you can see here, g5 was the only safe square for the king to go, and that too is covered by black's own pawn. So that's how I won in this game. Thanks for watching, guys. See ya in the next video.